This is the HockeyDocs Podcast, your deep dive into the stories behind the game, hosted by Aaron Bell. Longtime OHL communications director, photographer, documentary filmmaker, and author. From junior dreams to championship teams, we spotlight the players, coaches, and the moments that shape the game. The HockeyDocs Podcast is produced by Angela Bell. To explore more inside hockey stories, visit HockeyDocs.com. From there, you'll find our full library of documentary films, behind-the-scenes videos, books, blogs, exclusive photos, and more. Now, let's drop the puck on this week's episode.
This week on the HockeyDocs Podcast, we're going back inside the Belleville Bulls locker room with a captain who lived it all. Luke Judson spent 5 seasons in Belleville, wearing the C for 3 of them, a rare honor in junior hockey. He came in as a wide-eyed 16-year-old on a Memorial Cup contender, learning from leaders like Matt Bolesky, BK Subban. He left as the heartbeat of the franchise, a player known for grit, accountability, and community presence. In our conversation, Luke shares the memories that shaped him, from rookie rituals and team culture to the lessons he carried into life after the Bulls. He opens up about his winding pro career across the ECHL and even Australia, and why the pull of home eventually led him to a new challenge, building the Fort Francis Lakers back into a respected junior program as their coach and GM. Most of all, you'll hear how the values instilled in Belleville, professionalism, preparation, and respect, still drive him today. So settle in. This is the story of leadership, resilience, and carrying the Bulls' legacy forward. My guest, former captain Luke Judson. Curious about maybe just your time in Belleville, when you think back. I mean, obviously we're a few years removed now, but tell me a little bit about when you look back on those memories, what you think about playing for the Bulls.
Very fondly, and I mean, you see the jersey behind me still, and we look back at it with very good memories. I still have some really good friends from my time in Belleville. Still stay in touch with the coaches, George, and I just touch base with Jason Saprika again, and a few of the other guys. I went to visit one of my old teammates and roommates, Nick Pajot and Adam Perel in Germany. They're still playing over there, so some lifelong connections, but. All in all, I have nothing bad to say about my time there, and it was a great experience, and I think it helped prepare me for a lot of the things I'm doing now.
And I'm curious about growing up for you. Obviously, you were a long ways away from Belleville, and I'm curious about just your first instinct or your first reaction when you heard you were selected by the Belleville Bulls and what that was going to mean to you. Maybe take me a little bit through that for you.
Well, I'm sure we'll get to what I'm doing now, but now that I'm on the coaching side of things, it's really interesting to look at what that road would be for a player from Emo or Fort Francis area. I'm trying to bring back some of that competitiveness that we had with my age group growing up, but I was lucky to have a really great minor hockey team. We didn't have any AAA hockey here locally, but the AA team we played on, there were several players that went on to junior A hockey, got D1 scholarships, were drafted to the NHL, played in the OHL. So really uncommon to have for a team like that in a small area. But, we were lucky to have a group that pushed each other, that knew what you had to do off the ice, that were committed. And it kind of just, we kind of grew pushing each other for all those years. And, there's lots of those guys that are getting involved again locally here too. So really unlikely road. We kind of try and tell the kids now that we're coaching how much more you need to do off the ice and how much more you need to do on your own, because you go down to where you're from in Belleville, Toronto areas, and all across the world. There's all kinds of programming year round to be that player and develop and do that year round. Whereas we haven't had that here, and it was more on the player to put in that work. But we're trying to put some resources in place here locally to kind of make that a more viable path again. And, I was lucky to be able to do it with what we had then, but I think we're kind of opening up some avenues for that for other young players here now too.
Wow, that's great to hear. Yeah, I definitely want to ask you more about your role now and the transition into that role and all that kind of thing. But I'm very curious about when you showed up in Belleville, obviously a very deep team, Memorial Cup bound team that went to the OHL finals, very much a veteran team. Maybe tell me a little bit about that kind of settling in process or what that looked like for you.
Yeah, I really had no idea what to expect. Through my time in minor hockey, we had went to visit a few OHL programs. We caught a couple teams, but beyond that, I knew nothing about what to expect. But I did listen back to your conversation you had with PK, and it's really interesting how we all took the same things from George Burnett. Is that he was a professional. It was structured. Everything was organized. We knew exactly where we needed to be, when we needed to be. And, if I was looking back as my parents, I think they could take a lot of comfort in knowing that players had that. And, George was great at it. I think the OHL as a whole has a pretty good handle on how they do things, and that level of professionalism is always there. But I think, like PK said, George is second to none in that. And, it was the perfect scenario for a kid that didn't have an awareness of what major junior hockey was to jump into. And, right from the training camp of how you walk in, how you register, how the fitness testing works. There's no wasted time. The expectations are clear, and I'm going to keep going back to this, but this is how I kind of try and do things here. And there's lots of those elements that I use here in Fort Francis.
Well, and I think back to that team, and one of the things that really stands out to me is just the leadership. You mentioned earlier Nick Pajot, Jeff Killing, Matt Bolesky. It goes on and on and on. That team was just full of leaders. And I got to think, seeing that as your career down the road, 3-year captain of the team, which is pretty rare, very unusual or not frequent, I guess. But just tell me a little bit about what kinds of things you ran into when you first got here and seeing some of those leaders and maybe learning from them and what you took from that.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you need to figure out is your preparation, how to do things on and off the ice. How you're eating, how you're practicing on the ice, how guys compete on the ice. And when you have a team in your 16-year-old season that goes to the Memorial Cup, I mean, obviously there's more than a handful of guys, the guys you named and others that we were winning for a reason. A lot of those guys obviously went on to do some pretty phenomenal things. But that was more definitely what I took from the players was that preparation. And 2 years later, like you said, I became a captain at 18 years old, and I mean, having those guys to look back on was a great asset to me. But the cycles of junior hockey, and you make a run for the Memorial Cup or for a league championship, whatever it may be, and a lot of times the cupboards are a little bit bare because you're selling a lot of resources to build those teams to what they are. And we did have a couple tough seasons after that. But, again, I think for my personal development and what I was as a player, it was all 5 years were really a perfect progression for me to, get my feet wet the first year and then be thrown into a situation where I could play and try and be a leader and have an opportunity to play on the power play, on the penalty kill. And, there's probably a lot of other teams that I could have been selected to that I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. So, a lot of players, it doesn't work out for. You get drafted to a team, it could be even high, and, you just can't get your foot in the door for what you are. But, I'm thankful for where the team was at. I'm thankful for that staff for giving me an opportunity, but it really, the timing of it all was perfect for me to kind of get my, like I said, get my feet wet in junior hockey and, become in a short period, become a key piece to that team.
And would you say, were there any players or any individuals that you kind of modeled yourself after, whether they were NHL players or guys that you met as you started to come up into the OHL, like any guys that you looked up to or tried to emulate in any way?
You can kind of look back, and I have a little scrapbook of some of the things that I went through, and lots of that is the Belleville Intelligencer, and you can see a lot of articles referencing me and Matt Bolesky, and that was something that was put in my ear right from the start of, hey, take a look at what this guy's doing, take a look at how this guy plays, and that's what you should be modeling yourself off of. And I think it was a good bar to set. I mean, obviously, Matt went on to have a pretty great career and do things that I didn't do, but he was a great leader for us, a no-nonsense guy, and he set the bar very high for that year. And it set the tone, not only for that year, but for me, the 4 years after. One quick story, one of my first years there, we used to play this game called Juice Boy, a little shootout competition where if you were the last person to score, you came off the ice and you served everyone else Gatorade for after practice. And a 16-year-old's job, typically, or a rookie, was to pick up the pucks after practice. So I lost this game and one of my first practices, and got off the ice and got my equipment off, and I had all the juice set up for the players. And I thought, what a good rookie I'm being for all these guys. Matt Bolesky's the next guy off the ice, and he looks at me and he goes, "What the hell are you doing? Like, you got to go pick up the pucks." And I had all my equipment off. I'm standing there like, oh, I thought I was being a nice young guy for you, but I had to put all my equipment back on. And, it wasn't much for rookie veteran stuff, but there was some things that, that were expected. And, it kind of set the bar for what it was, what kind of team we were.
Well, I think of some of the characters that were around the team at that time. One guy that really, for me, stands out is Tom Frater, just the guy that seemed to give everybody the nicknames and, just had a billion stories and loved to share them. Tell me a little bit about the atmosphere, especially as you're starting to get older, a little bit more into your career. Tell me a bit about the atmosphere around that team.
Yeah, and I think when you're young, you see this in the NHL too, where a guy jumps into a team that's a championship team right from the start, and they say afterwards, you don't realize what you have when you're young. And I think that was kind of the case. Like, all this was obviously special in that year, but as a 16-year-old, I don't think I recognized maybe how special it was. And then as time went on and the teams we had, didn't have the success, obviously, that we did in the first 2 years, for a lot of factors. But, you look back and you think, yeah, that was special. And the way, I think it's more just about the way they competed with each other on the ice and the expectations they had for each other. And, on the bench, on the ice, in the dressing room, and that's something we try and instill with our players is, there's a way to criticize, there's a way to talk to each other, but there's always an expectation. And, if you're communicating it in the right way and you're holding each other accountable, there's a way to do that. And when you have a team that's winning like that, top to bottom, all those guys were like that. And sorry, I kind of talked around Freites there, but Freites was there for a long time. Actually, I think it was after my first or second year, he left to Mississauga, but he was a guy that right when you got to the rink, you felt at home because he made you feel like a part of the boys. And it's not because he was like a friendly, happy-go-lucky guy. He treated you like anyone else and busted your balls as much as anyone. But at the end of the day, you knew whether it was skates, sticks, anything else off ice, he was there to help and had a helping hand in whatever you were doing. So after that, Matt Sands took over. I had a great relationship with him as well. But those equipment guys don't get near enough credit. Like, there's a lot of work for those guys behind the scenes, even at our level in Junior A, but also at the OHL level, there's that much more and there's that much higher an expectation. And those guys didn't miss a beat. There was never anything that was missing. There was never anything we were in need for. And, they took good care of us.
What about, maybe tell me a little bit about after you left Belleville, I believe you went back to Thunder Bay, went to Lakehead, went to university. Tell me a little bit about your path after leaving the Bulls.
Yeah, so it was a little bit winding for sure, and it was a little bit unique in the hockey world at that time because that was a lockout year. So, personally, I thought I had a pretty good career, and I was very hopeful that I'd get a chance, at the AHL level. At that time, there was a lot of guys coming down. Ultimately, that opportunity didn't come. Lakehead is a good youth sports system. At that time, they were a very winning team. If you follow youth sports, there's not a lot of these programs that get fans as well. And if you look at what they do, they're getting 3,000, 3,500 fans a game. I still wanted hockey to matter. I still wanted it to be something. And, being in, I call it my hometown. It's 4 hours away, but around here, that's close to home. But I still had lots of family, friends in Thunder Bay. So I thought it was a good opportunity to play at a good level. And still have hockey mean something and have hockey mean something to the people that were watching. So I went to Lakehead for a year and, as far as my season, it went well. They treated me well, gave me a great opportunity to play and have a successful year. There was a little bit of turmoil with the coaches. We ended up with a coaching change mid-season. It got a little bit disorganized, and at that time, I kind of decided, I'm going to try the pro thing. I could talk more about where I went after, but I kind of knew where my life was going after hockey, as far as what I needed for education and whatnot. So I thought, let's get pro out of the way. Let's see what I can do here. So after just 1 year at Lakehead, I went on to San Francisco in the ECHL. So again, that season they folded mid-season. So I bounced around a bit the next year and a half. Idaho, Tulsa, Bakersfield is where I finished. And at that time in Bakersfield, I was lucky enough to play with an old teammate again, Nick Pajot. After my time in Tulsa, I was almost ready to be done at that point and head home. But Nick gave me a call and he said, "Hey, we might be looking for someone. I don't know what's going on. Why don't you drive over? Just give it a shot." And it was a long drive across from Tulsa, but at the end of the day, I'm glad I did it. I had a great experience in Bakersfield playing with Nick. I found a role there that I was comfortable with, playing that penalty kill, energy, physical kind of guy. And, it went really well for me. But beyond that, the year finished, I was really hopeful to just continue my time in Bakersfield. And at that time, the leagues did a big realignment as to who was an AHL team, ECHL team, and Bakersfield became an AHL team. So Norfolk was going to be the new program that all those ECHL players went to. Ultimately, obviously the years leading up to that, I had bounced around a lot. It was already kind of on my mind that, maybe this was going to be it. And, I did a short stint in Australia and then I came home. So I've been home since. That was the end of the hockey. But, ultimately, it was all a great experience. I played with some great people and, I'm happy I did it.
And today I see you're a coach and general manager in Fort Francis Junior A program. Tell me a little bit about how that opportunity came about for you and why it was something that you were interested in doing.
Yeah, so I have a few things going on here right now. So the first few years back home, I probably like a lot of guys, I stayed away from the rink. I was kind of over it for a while. I wanted to kind of work and, get back with my friends and just explore being not a hockey player for a while. And my family has a company here called ML Judson Trucking. We do trucking, heavy equipment, all that. So I started working with my dad there. And, just very recently in the last year, me and my wife, Tara, have taken over that company. So that's another thing that we're doing right now. That's been really good. But anyways, going back to the hockey side, one of my good friends, Tyler Miller, was taking over the Junior A team. The team was in a lot of turmoil. I mean, not going to get too much into it, but you can Google what happened in Fort Francis, and they had a few rough years, a few 5, 6, 8 win seasons that weren't great. So Tyler's a local guy who played college hockey. He was going to jump in and try and turn things around here in Fort Francis, and was looking for some help. So he grabbed me and a few other really good local hockey guys, and we just decided, hey, let's see what we can do here. We all decided, financially, you know what it's like for junior A programs. It's tough. They were in a bad spot financially. So we all just said, let's volunteer for a year. Let's see what we can do with this, and let's try and get things back on the rails here. So I think we went from 12 wins to 16. Don't quote me on this, but 12 wins to 16 wins to last year we were a 500 team and took a really good team in our league to a 7-game series in the first round. And the progression of not just what we've done on the ice, but off the ice in the community. Just the professionalism that I talked about George bringing. I think the team's at a different level now. The team has a different level of respect. Recruiting's become a lot easier. But it's been fun. And last season, at the end of last season, my friend Tyler, he had his third kid. He's a high school principal. So he decided to take a step away, and he did a great job kind of bringing the team from where it was to where it is. And I'm kind of taking on both roles now as a GM and head coach, and it's going to be a challenge, but I think we have some good building blocks in place to kind of keep pushing forward.
So fans of the Belleville Bulls will certainly remember what Luke Judson was like as a player, what Luke Judson was like as a captain, as a member of the community, all of those kinds of things. What's Luke Judson like as a coach? I'd be curious to know what you think of there.
I think as a player, the good part is when you're trying to create some momentum or you're trying to do something for your team, you can go on the ice and do it, whether that's, you try to be the one to score a goal, or, I wasn't afraid to get in a fight or drive the net or cause a skirmish, whatever that was. As a player, you're able to go out and do it. And now from the other side of it, it's, you're trying to find ways to kind of just instill that confidence in guys that they can take the same reins and just be the guy that's going to go out there and do it. So it's definitely a different animal as far as the preparation and making sure your players have the right information and building that structure. So there probably are some symmetries in my passion for the game and my intensity on the bench and all that stuff. But I really like the challenge of trying to find what's in these players. And we've had some good success in not only the teams we have, but pushing players on to college, youth sports. And I'm really enjoying that part of it.
Well, that's great to hear. And I'm curious just about your kind of initial reactions or what you thought when you heard about the Bulls leaving town, that that transition that happened here several years ago. I guess we're coming up close to 10 years now, but.
Yeah, for me personally, I didn't want to see that. I love my time in Belleville. I think, if anyone had a chance to play there, they know what it's like in the town. They know, when you go to the mall or in the movie theater and all those things, people know who you are. And not only that side of it, but the structure and professionalism that George and the staff put into it. It was a great place to play hockey. And I know now the arena's got a big facelift. I was back a few years ago and had a look. It looks great. It's too bad that couldn't have been there for the OHL team. But, more so for me was just knowing what it meant to the people in the community. The billets that were involved for years, the sponsors that were involved, the events that went on around the Bulls. You feel for the people in that community that was a part of their lives. I'm not there anymore. So, I wasn't going to get to experience all that stuff, but that a lot of those people, that was their life and that was people that they had close connections with. And to not have that, I think it hurt a lot of people. I stayed in close touch with my billets, Mark and Bob. Mark passed away this past year, but that hurt them for sure. It was their social life. It was the kids they were involved with, and it was their connection to the community. So I'm glad to see there is some high level hockey there right now. And I'm glad to see where the rink is, but I think the Bulls were something special.
Absolutely. Last thing I wanted to ask you about was, now in your new role as a coach and GM, do you ever get the chance, I know you had talked a little about talking to some of your teammates and things like that. Do you ever have the opportunity to maybe reach out to somebody like George Burnett and kind of pick his brain, or tell me a little bit about that experience for you?
I probably bug George more than he wants me to still. So, yeah, especially now that I have a reason to. Like in junior A, I've asked him lots of questions. And, when I talk about structure and systems and how we do things as a team, George has gone as far as to send me a lot of, the policy and the documentation he sends players when, they're getting drafted, or, plans for the summer or scheduling or communication with parents. A lot of that stuff he's shared with me to kind of use in my program. We've talked about players. He's had a look at a few of our players to maybe get opportunities at camps in Guelph and whatnot. So, the players on my team, that's the goal for them, right? Like, a lot of them want to play major junior hockey, and reality is in the SIJHL, that's not a lot of players, but at the same time, there's some good players that have come from this league and done really well in the OHL. So when there's someone that there's some talent there and there's some ability that they can get there, George is definitely my first call. But he's been more than helpful. He's always given me good advice, and he's probably someone, or hopefully someone, that I can lean on for years to come.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Luke. I really appreciate your time today. And
absolutely. Appreciate you having me, Aaron.
You betcha. Thanks for listening to this episode of the HockeyDocs Podcast. If you enjoyed hearing Luke Judson's stories, you'll love the depth of content that we share every week about the junior hockey game. Head over to HockeyDocs.com and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get first access to new stories, books, podcast episodes, and videos, all delivered straight to your inbox. At HockeyDocs, our mission is to capture the players, the moments, and the memories that make junior hockey unforgettable. We'd love to have you along for the ride.